In the summer of 2024, I decided to go on a 200-kilometer weekend bike camping trip from Hamilton, Ontario to the town of Dexter. Ever since I've been riding bikes, I've always wanted to go on a multi-day bike tour, but I never attempted it until now. So I took a Friday off work and started to make my way out of the city. So I'm not quite out of the city yet. I'm just about to climb up the escarpment, but I'm officially on the waterfront trail now. So I'm just gonna pump up my tire a little bit. So far this trail's pretty nice actually. It's a rail trail, but it's all paved, which is really nice for going uphill. I think I spoke too soon. This trail has just turned pretty bumpy. So hopefully it's not like this the whole ride up. But we'll see. So I'm just taking a little break on the trail now. Here's Hamilton, Ontario. The rest of the climb wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. The terrain thankfully smoothed out, and before I knew it, it was leveling out and I was at the top. Oh, I've pretty much made it to the top of the escarpment now. There's just one last push to the bridge that I'm going to cross, or I can get on another trail that'll take me towards Lake Erie. Whew. Chippewa Rail Trail, that's what I'm looking for. Since I didn't have any kind of bike computer or GPS, I relied mainly on road signs to take me where I want to go. I did have some backup Google Maps directions printed out, but I didn't end up using them for the entirety of the trip. I knew there was going to be one stretch of busy road leaving the city, but studying the route ahead of time gave me a really good idea of what general direction I needed to head in, which made navigating really simple. Alright. Now I'm just gonna follow this until we get to Caledonia. It was at this point that the touring aspect of the trip started to feel real. I was headed in the right direction, passing through farmland, and the flat terrain made it so I could move along at a pretty nice pace. I just got to a trailhead here. As you can see on the map, I'm up here. And down here is where I want to be, at Caledonia. And it looks like a section of the trail here is closed, so I'm probably going to have to come down and do a detour on the back roads, or they're also saying there's a trail this way too. Let's see how that goes. The detour only added a few kilometers to my route, but was a good sample of what was to come for the rest of the trip. About 20 minutes later, I made it to the town of Caledonia, where I took a break to walk my bike through town and across the Grand River. This stop was a little less than halfway for day one, so I decided it would be a good place to stop for lunch.
Order number 18, ready to decide window number 18.
Once I finished lunch, I hopped back on my bike to continue riding south towards Lake Erie. This portion was a lot more scenic as I passed through more farmland, which transitioned to wind farms the closer I got to the water. Looks like we're almost here. Here is site 23. Made it. Once I was set up and settled in at the campground, I went back out for a quick ride along the lakeshore towards the town of Selkirk to pick up a few things for dinner. Just got back from that short little ride out to town. I got jerky and beer, so it's gonna be a good night. So this is my setup for the night. So I've got the fire, I'm gonna start dinner soon, and then got my tent over there. See how my fire's doing. I could probably add some more wood to that. There, keep that going a little longer. Not as sore as I thought I'd be. I was a little nervous about the weight I had on my bike and how I'd feel day one, but pretty good. Feeling good about tomorrow, so. Yeah, just kind of relaxing now. It's good. Got my fire, food soon. All is good. So I gotta say, this is looking pretty good. It smells good too. That should be a good dinner tonight. Got my nice little fire going here. Just threw in the whole bag of wood, and that'll be it for the night. So I just got up, day 2. It's about 7:30 in the morning. It's about 12 degrees. It's pretty cool. But I got some merino wool layers and a down vest, so not too bad. Still sort of waking up. Just gonna brush my teeth and start making breakfast. Can report that the breakfast this morning not looking as great as dinner last night, but still tastes alright. After packing up my site, I decided to stick around the park for a little bit longer and explore some of the trail systems that it had, which was a nice way to warm up my legs before getting started for the day. At around 10:30, I eventually rolled out of the park and was back on the road for my second day of the trip. Since I've never done a trip like this before, I wanted my second day to be pretty chill since I wasn't sure how I was going to be feeling. So I only had about 45 kilometers to cover. My plan was to find a way to get to the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail and follow those roads as close to the shore as possible for the best views. I continued west for a couple hours along the shore, following signs to stay on track towards my next stop where I planned to break for lunch. Thankfully the heat wasn't unbearable, but I was definitely feeling the sun by this point. I eventually made it to Port Dover where I planned to stop. It was pretty busy on the Saturday that I came through. I spent a bit of time in the area, but was most looking forward to a fish and chips lunch before heading back out. I was pretty glad this was a short day since it allowed me to relax a bit more at each stop and enjoy the trip as a whole. The
The second half of day 2 wasn't long, but included some pretty steep ups and downs through the villages, which made it feel a lot worse.
That was a very tough hill. Whew.
Although the climbs were tough, it was a lot of fun bombing down the hills, which made it worth it. The scenery through this section also changed to provide a lot more tree cover and shade than the previous half. By early afternoon, I made it to my second campground, which was Turkey Point Provincial Park, where I checked in and went looking for my site.
I'm looking for site 148. Here we are.
Just like the previous day, once I set up my site, I rode into town to pick up a few things, but this time also decided to ride down to the beach and sit by the water.
So I decided not to eat it again tonight, so I ended up just making craft dinner and then slicing up some little pepperoni sticks into it. Not too bad. Just lets me relax and eat here rather than go out again. Compared to yesterday, I'm a little bit more fatigued. The left side of my leg that was facing the sun, or the south side, got burnt pretty bad, so I'm sort of feeling that now. But still good, still feeling good, but tired. So I'm up now. It's about 7:30 or 8. Just had a shower, which was good. About to make some breakfast. So I'm gonna start packing up the site soon, and then hit the road. Just leaving Turkey Point now.
I knew day 3 was going to be my longest stretch and the most challenging, so I made sure to fuel up and got off to an earlier start than the day before. Still a bit nervous of what was to come. I kept following signs for the waterfront trail, which kept me in the right direction, and I started to feel a lot better about the ride.
Feeling pretty good so far. Might stop for a quick break soon. It looks like I'm in Port Rowan. So you can see here, there's Turkey Point. I've ridden to Port Rowan so far, and then you can see Long Point here, which you can see in the distance over there.
I left Port Rowan feeling okay, but still knowing that I had several more stops to do before the end of the trip.
I was a little worried about today because it's the longest day of them all, but the hills aren't too bad, the road's nice and smooth, there's a good shoulder. It's a good day to be biking.
Eventually the roads flattened out and it had me riding in view of the water again, and I was making pretty good progress on covering distance. I was back into farmland, making my way between counties.
We're officially coming into Elgin County now. Had to do a little bit of a detour because part of Lakeshore is closed due to erosion. So it's permanently closed, so I'm gonna have to go north a little bit and then back over and then back down to the lakeshore. So I'm just about to head down back towards Port Burwell, and I think I'm gonna stop there, take a bit of a longer break, maybe get some lunch.
I hadn't been to Port Burwell in several years and was really surprised how few people were there considering how nice the beach is, especially on a weekend. I decided to ride down towards the water and found a food truck where I stopped for lunch for a while, trying to not think about the final climb that I had coming at the end of the trip.
So I just pulled out of Port Burwell and I'm on my way towards Copenhagen and then Port Bruce. And then there's one last hill in Port Bruce that I have to get to. So this section of Nova Scotia line is definitely my least favorite section of the waterfront trail. It's pretty busy and there's no good shoulder. We're almost to the end of this road, about to go down to Port Bruce. We even got a bike lane.
Once I made it into Port Bruce, I took a detour from my route to ride towards the beach, as it would be my last stop before not only the biggest climb, but also the entire trip. After a few minutes of resting and fueling up, I reluctantly got back on track to finish the final hill out of Port Bruce.
That was definitely the big hill of the trip. Oh. I made it to the top. And now we're on Dexter Line.
I spent the final 10 kilometers enjoying the scenery and looking back at what I had just done over the last 3 days. Although it wasn't the longest trip, it was an intro to bike touring that showed me how far a bike and some panniers can take you, and made for an unforgettable trip.
It's almost to the end of the trip now. I think about 3 or 4 kilometers left. So close. All right, here it is. The final stretch. We're here. Finally made it. Oh.